analyzing the documentary I chose, which was Blackfish. So first, we're going to talk about the director, Gabriella Copperthwaite. I think that's how you pronounce it. So basically, she just has a history of directing various other films. She's a filmmaker, producer, and writer, and mainly her films deal with social, cultural, and environmental issues. And then there's also a story that I found talking just about how she kind of got set up for making the film Blackfish. She was with her children, and then she just had the idea of orcas being held in captivity, kind of what her film surrounds by. So a synopsis about the film is basically that in 2013, she made this documentary to inform her audience about the inhumane condition that goes on inside SeaWorld for human entertainment, and then that the treatment and conditions of these animals inside the park are done by humans. And this basically just allows the public to know that orcas are being held in captivity, as well as staff not following safety guidelines. And then throughout the film, it also talks about deaths and injuries to the staff. The big death that they talk about is over a senior trainer named Dawn. And then there are other two. There's a death from Kelty Burns that was caused by the hand of Tilikum, who is basically the focus or the star of the film. He's a orca that they have at SeaWorld. And later in the presentation, I'll be talking about how he transitioned from this place called Sealand to SeaWorld, and like how that transition's kind of been not dangerous for him, but for the staff and the trainers that work with him as well. And finally, this documentary didn't have a lot of awards, but it caught on to a lot of recognition. So the award it did win was the Satellite Award for Best Motion Picture. And this film caught a lot of recognition for people because it was just showing these inhumane conditions that these whales go through just for human entertainment. So, yeah. Okay, so the thesis or the main call to action of this was to create or to expose the harsh treatment that these killer whales face at SeaWorld as well as Sealand, just for like human entertainment. Okay, so the urgency of these issues. So first clip I'm going to show you is kind of how they start their film, and I'm going to play that now. And then we're going to move on to this one.
Says is extremely dangerous. These are wild animals, and they are unpredictable because we don't speak whale. We don't speak whale, we don't speak tiger, we don't speak monkey.
And tempers flared between the two sides today when OSHA's attorney suggested that SeaWorld only made changes after trainer Dawn Branchow's death outraged the public. OSHA doesn't want the trainers going back in the water without a physical barrier between them and the whales.
Being in close proximity to these top predators is too dangerous.
They won't then be getting in the water, riding on the whales, things like that.
If you were in a bathtub for 25 years, don't you think you'd get a little irritated, aggravated, maybe a little psychotic?
Okay, so what these two videos are basically showing is the first one is the 911 call regarding the senior trainer at SeaWorld, Dawn Branchow's death. So the way she dies is at the hands of Tilikum, where she's in the pool, I want to say, with him. And what he basically does is he grabs her by the arm, takes her into the water, kind of does a barrel roll, and in the end drowns her as well as biting off her arm. So this is kind of where this news kind of goes in as well. Is basically saying that after this death, like this all panic kind of happened. And it also, in the last clip where it was a lady talking about holding a whale in 25 years in captivity, that's basically has been Tilikum's life. And he's been going through and like training with everything for just human entertainment. And yeah, so him being in captivity for all those years kind of just has a negative effect on him and for everyone else that is with. And then also, I want you to remember these two pictures right here because I didn't have enough room, and I'll just be going back to them as well in the next slide.
It will have
Okay, so first I'm going to be talking about cinematic techniques. The first one I want to show is this interview by a former whale hunter slash diver named John Crow.
We're only after the little one. And the little one is, you know, a big animal still, but I was told because of shipping costs, that's why they only take the little ones.
They had the young ones that they wanted in the corrals, so they dropped the seine nets, and all the others could have left, but they stayed.
Where they're trying to get the young orca in the stretcher, and the whole family is out here 25 yards away maybe in a big line, and they're communicating back and forth. Well, you understand then what you're doing, you know. I lost it. I mean, I started crying. I didn't stop working, but I, you know, just couldn't handle it. And just like kidnapping a little kid away from her mother. Everybody's watching. What can you do? It's the worst thing I can think of. You know, I can't think of anything worse than that. Now, this really sounds bad, but when the whole hunt was over, there were 3 dead whales in the net. And so they had Peter and Brian and I cut the whales open, fill them with rocks, put anchors on their tail, and sink them. Well, really, I didn't even think about it being illegal at that point. I thought it was a PR thing.
Okay, so with this interview, after kind of a minute later, it goes into them capturing a whale they named Tilikum, who I said in the beginning was kind of the focus of this film. So Tilikum, after he's captured and taken away from his family, that traumatic scene happens. He's taken to a place called Sealand, which is basically a kind of like a step below or like multiple steps below SeaWorld. And here, referring back to the pictures I had before, here we're just gonna go back. They would have them train and, you know, do cool tricks and everything for people to see. In this one, it's Tilikum with a senior partner who's been there and learns these tricks. But with that, the trainers that they had there, the tricks that when they were teaching the tricks, if Tilikum didn't perform them correctly, not only would Tilikum get punished, but his partner would get punished as well, which caused kind of a little bit of chaos, a little bit of tension between everyone, including the orcas as well. So with that happening, when the partner would get punished, they would get mad at Tilikum and basically abuse Tilikum, and that's kind of how he grew up. He grew up, if he didn't get anything right, he would get hurt, or if he got something right, he would get rewarded, and that's kind of his mindset of growing up, which also frustrated him a lot, as you can see in the film. They also talk about this little box right here. This is kind of where they live. So imagine 3 to 4 like big orcas living in this small metal box. They said it was about 30 feet deep and 20 feet wide. It's not a lot of swimming room. And then also by the time they would get out of the box, it would just be each orca would have like rakes or bleeding or just basically kind of wrinkled skin due to bite marks and everything. But what the director also wants to incorporate in this film is that orcas, they're actually nice creatures, especially when they're in the wild. So the next technique is music, and we're just gonna press play.
And to this day, there's no record of an orca doing any harm to any human in the wild. They live.
So with this one, they have like this nice tone, kind of classical musical showing these orcas swimming in the wild who are like calm and nice and minding their own business, while we have a orca like Tilikum, who is kind of now violent, because during this time as well, you see that Tilikum has his first victim, which is Kelty Byrne, who dies because she's getting pulled in by Tilikum and everything when she slips into the water. Yet no one introduces this idea until later, 25 years later, when Dawn dies. So that's kind of like no one was paying attention that this whale held in captivity has injured someone, yet they're still going to take him and train him somewhere else until the next death. So my next one is archival footage, basically showing like a news report of everyone in this film, like remembering Dawn, and then also like a news reporter talking with Dawn in like her show. So, and you kind of get to see who Dawn is, sort of.
Senior trainer here at Shamu Stadium.
I guess you could say I moved on in the past life.
It's a tough job, isn't it? Yeah, we really do put a lot of physical exertion. You can see in the show, we do a lot of deep water work, breath holds, very high energy behaviors with the animals. Obviously, they're giving out a lot of energy too, but we're working together and having a lot of fun as well.
Beautiful, blonde, athletic, friendly. Everybody loves Dawn.
And I mean this so sincerely. Watching you perform yesterday, you're amazing. You really are.
She captured what it means to be.
So yeah, like I said before, this footage was basically just showing us a side of Dawn, that who she was as a trainer and a person, and just also kind of as a remembrance, because like I said, she has passed away. And just for time's sake, I'm not going to show this one, I'm just going to explain it. So this was everyone's reaction after Dawn died, and then that SeaWorld had kind of reportedly said it was Dawn's fault that she passed away, because the story that they came out was that Tilikum grabbed her by the ponytail and dragged her in the water, and that's how she eventually drowned. And everyone else is reacting, kind of being saying, how dare you blame a girl for her death, even though she's not here to defend herself. And they also use archival footage and photos as well to prove the fact that Dawn, even though she was a senior trainer and there were other superiors above her, they had ponytails as well in their hair, and they still are alive and well and nothing happened to them. So it was kind of like showing evidence saying like, hey, Dawn it wasn't her fault that she passed away. It was basically Tilikum. And also there were like signs pointing to it, because there was a person that they didn't go into detail with, a man named Ken Peters. He was still alive after the accident. Basically Tilikum kind of jumped over and attempted to drown him as well. So it was just basically showing like kind of patterns as to where Tilikum, this orca who's been held in captivity for most of his life, kind of abused as well, is now kind of having an outlet when he's frustrated. So that's kind of where these cinematic techniques kind of come in play. Okay, the way this document, and I'm just actually gonna play it and then we're gonna talk about it.